Okay, let's go. Maseches Bove Kame. Daflam Amud Beis. Okay, good. Every day we can learn Torah is a big discuss. This year is Leilu Nishmas of Yomi Menachem Ben Akiva, Rus Bas Shalom, Rochel Bas Ben Zion, So Bas Moshe, the first Yudis Bas Rivka, Gila, Golda Gila Bas Shifra, and then Pedinecha Bas Gula Rochel. Says the Mishnah. Before the Mishnah, actually, I owe you a little bit of a debt. We had Shabbos. We spoke at Lamed Beis Amud Beis in the top of the page, the very top of the page. We said that Friday, Ben Hashmoshes people would run. Ben Hashmoshes is not a time when you run shopping anymore. Hopefully, you're done your shopping and you can't shop anymore. So, what are you running around for? So, the Gemara said there were two opinions regarding, look what you say over here. Yeah, it says that according to one opinion, they would run into the street to receive and welcome the Shabbos. Yeah, the Shabbos queen, exactly. Because this is a queen and you have to basically go out. Yeah, and that was Rabbi Chanina. Yeah, Rabbi Chanina would run towards the Kala. And Rabbi Yanai would actually do it the other way. He would stay in his place, he would stay static in his place, and he would welcome in the Shabbos as the Shabbos coming in. So on one hand, it's nicer to run towards the queen because you give her more covet. But today, that's not the minhag. As we know, it's today, anybody would have done that. It's considered as euro, considered as somebody doing something arrogant because it's not really up to his level. So people don't run to the street to welcome the Shabbos. And that's what the Mishnah Berurah says. But it's interesting, there are two different schools of thought. Should you run towards the queen or welcome her in? Lamaisa, that's why we turn around in Lechadoidi and we say Boi Kala, is because of that. Come, the bride, we welcome the bride, but we do make some kind of motion to welcome her by turning towards the door. Says the Heilige Mishnah. This Mishnah I would define as trans reshus nezek. In other words, up until now we spoke about a nezek where everything starts and ends in Reshus Harabim. The nezek in Reshus Harabim and the person was damaged also in Reshus Harabim. Everything happened there. What happens when the nezek starts in one reshus and is trans domain? Yeah, it goes through the domain to another place, and there it hurts a different person who's sitting in a different place. Says the Mishnah, somebody who cuts wood, yeah, he has a big log of wood, timber, and he cuts it. He sits in Reshus Harabim cutting his wood. One piece of wood went flying into Reshus Yochid and hurt someone. Or somebody sitting in his own domain, in his own front yard, where he has a lot of timber and he cuts the timber, and one piece of wood fell and flew boom into Reshus Harabim. He went to the other place. Or he was sitting in one Reshus Harabim and then damaged another Reshus Yochid, which is, let's say, his next door neighbor. He lives in Woodcutter Avenue number 4, and the other person lives in Woodcutter neighborhood number 6. Yeah, one flew into the other. Chayev in all three cases is chayev. What is the chayev for? I assume he's chayev for nezikin. Yeah, for damage caused. And I would say, even though he may be shogeg, but he has to be careful. I'm not sure it's shogeg, by the way. Could be the poshea. He should have known that his piece of wood can fly to the other direction. Yeah, he's not surrounded by an iron wall. He's not in communist Russia in the 70s, and therefore you should be aware of the fact that it may fly to another area and damage people there. The Gemara is going to explain why we need all three cases. I'm not really welcoming questions the first 5 minutes unless it's really urgent. Sorry.
But didn't we learn that it's not what the start, it's where the end before? It starts in the Reshus Harabim and it ends in the Reshus Yochid. Then is chayev, but if it's from Rabim to Reshus, it's pata.
When is that?
Sorry?
In Adam, yeah? In the person that hurt the other?
No, because I asked you that question.
Very nice, but regarding what? You're right, Ellen. Yeah, we go, first of all, sometimes we go over the beginning, sometimes by the end. Secondly, here it doesn't make a difference. Why? Because when a person damages the other, he's chayev always, Adam od lo'olam, and also in every domain. If I punch your face in Reshus HaYochid or in Reshus HaRabim, it's the same thing. It's the same nezik. That's it. So therefore, we are recorded. Says the Gemara. V'tzricha. The Gemara has a question, why do we need all three cases? Why do we need to mention from Yochid to Rabim, from Rabim to Yochid, and Yochid to Yochid? Why does the Mishnah have to be so verbose and mention all the cases? Says the Gemara, if we say if the guy was sitting in Reshus HaYochid and he damaged in Reshus HaRabim, mishum deshchichi Rabim, because I would say, listen, when you sit in your own domain, in your own place, and you go bang, 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 cut, 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 and you know the pieces may fly into shchichi Rabim, a place where people are common, people are, they frequent the place, there are a lot of people frequently walking there, I would say that's very irresponsible, because at every given second in that busy street, people walk. So that's very responsible, and you're a posher. You should have, a yuni, said Rashi, you should have watched your cutting. But the other way, I would have said, if only that case would have mentioned in the Mishnah, I wouldn't have automatically derived that the Reshus HaRabim and Reshus HaYochid will be the same. I wouldn't say that from public, if I sit in a public place and there's one private yard over there next to me, maybe I'm not chayiv to be so careful, so conscious. Why? So conscientious. There aren't many people over there. In other words, there's one guy with one house, sometimes he's in, sometimes he's out. It's just one guy living with his wife and his dog. I don't really have to be so aware of the consequences when it comes to maybe hurting one person. When I may be hurting many people, I have to be much more conscientious, much more aware. But if I may be hurting one person and it's not I'm doing it on purpose. I'm doing my own thing in the street and he may or may not hurt his thing in the backyard because it flew the wrong direction. Maybe ad kadei kach, I would have said, maybe I don't have to be so aware. And if it happened, it's not my fault. Maybe I could have said that. And therefore we say both cases. Now, okay? So I understand now what you have to tell me from Reshus HaRabim and Reshus HaYochid. From Rabim to Yochid, the Chiddush is that you have to be aware of that even though it's only one person or one family, you still have to be aware and be ma'ayin. But if that would only that be written, now the other way, stick from the other direction, originally, it's liable shus. In other words, a person sitting in the street in the domain is a public domain. The public domain, you're not supposed to do it there. You're not supposed to do the cutting there. That's not a place to sit down and cut your wood. In Reshus HaRabim, your whole sitting there is sort of illegal, liable shus, without permission. Without a permission from the area to sit there, start your workshop in the middle of the street, mapitom. And therefore there, you're chayiv. I would say just the other way. There, it's worse, because you're sitting in a place. Speaking at the beginning and the end, your beginning point is wrong. You shouldn't be sitting there doing it to begin with. But if I'm sitting in my own private yard, in my own private place, and it affects Reshus HaRabim, the Bilshus of it, I'm doing my own thing. I'm doing Bilshus. I'm doing in my own yard whatever I want. Maybe it's going to hurt other people in the street. Maybe you don't have to think that far. Maloi. I would have said no. Get me? In other words, the Mishnah has to mention two cases. There are three cases in the Mishnah. Yochid to Rabim, Rabim to Yochid. And both of them are Chiddush. Okay, again, let's summarize why. Because the Chiddush is like this. In Reshus HaYochid, I'm starting from the end. In Reshus HaYochid, even though you're in Reshus HaYochid, and you're doing something which is within your Reshus, not doing anything illegal. My home is my castle. I'll do whatever I want inside my house. Maybe I don't have to be aware of what's happening beyond the borders of my house. That's maybe that's what I would have thought. The Mishnah says, no. You have to be aware of what's happening in Reshus HaRabim. Now, the other hand, I would have said, in Reshus HaRabim, I'm not supposed to do it, but who are you concerned about? One family on that side in the street? It's not a Rabim. We're always more concerned about Rabim than Yochid. Like if there's a public path. Yeah, for example. So therefore, we need both cases to tell me that in both cases, you're chayiv. You always have to be aware. Now, the question is, why do you need the third case? Why do you need the third case, right? Why do you need the case from Yochid to Yochid? If I sit in 4 Woodcutter's Lane and it spritzes, basically flew over to number 6, Why do I have to know that? What's the chiddush over there? Now we know why. Had I only mentioned the first two cases, I would have said, listen, one case is because the target, the final destination of the nezek is a public place. That's why you have to be careful. Or if the takeoff point is the first point of the nezek is in Rishus Harabim, I would say, hey, you're sitting in a place you're not allowed to sit. Listen to this. Both Rishus HaYochids, you have two mitigating factors. There aren't many people sitting in the other side of the fence, only one guy. Right? Only McDavid is sitting there with his old wife and sipping tea all day long. That's all that's there, and I know it. So maybe it's not such a big hazard. And also, Mikobel Shus. And also, I'm sitting in my own backyard. I'm sitting in my own place where I'm absolutely legal. Emaloi. I would have said both factors are for to be more meko. Tzricha. The Mishnah has to come and tell me, no. You always have to be aware. Wherever you cut wood, be it in your place, or be it in Rishus Harabim, wherever it may be, wherever the starting point is, wherever the end point is, lo ichpat. It's always the same, and you're chayev on what? You're chayev, and you have to be aware of what you're doing. And if you're not, you have to pay for the damage. And so far, we're speaking about damages that have to be paid. Okay? Questions now?
This case, the case I was talking about before, if a pebble went from Rishus to Yochid and
so responding to Alan's question or comment, this is like tzroiros. Tzroiros only applies by animals, not by human beings. And therefore, even though if this would be a chimpanzee cutting the wood, and I guess you can train them to do that, that would be an interesting question of tzroiros, okay? That would be tzroiros, and then would be only half damage, half nezik. But it's not tzroiros because it's a human being. Human beings are always more chayev for what they do. Now we're going to enter, slowly but surely, we're going to enter another realm of Otzeach b'shogeg. We all know the parsha about a person who entered the forest and he's cutting his wood in the forest, and there's another person in the forest. The forest is a place where everybody can come into. Everyone's welcome to the forest, regardless of their religion, gender, v'chule. They can all come to the forest, all very nice. One guy cut the wood, and by mistake, he was uncareful, and he hit his friend and killed his friend by mistake. What does he have to do? We all know the whole process. He ends up in Ir HaMiklat. In Ir Miklat, he has to go to a refugee city with the Levites, and there he'll be doing Teshuvah Shalema. Now, the question is like this. There's a very, very big question, which this Amud is actually a major part of that sugya. What do you define as shogeg, and what don't you define as shogeg? Yeah, in other words, to say that the person killed b'shogeg, I don't like to use the word mistake because it's a very general English term. In halacha, there are many more mistakes than just shogeg. There is oines. Oines is a person who had absolutely no idea whatsoever that the other person may be there. For example, I'll give an example right now. Let's say a person sits alone in his house and he did not expect any guests, and he put a big sign on the door saying no entry. I am a snobbish person. I don't want anybody in my house, bechlal. And somebody came without permission, and the owner of the house was cutting the wood, and it fell on the other person's face and hit him and killed him. I would say that's honest because I really didn't expect any guests whatsoever, right? That would be honest, and then the person would not have to go to your miklat. That level of mistake is below shogeg. Have a chart in your minds. Mezid, shogeg is below, and honest is even below that. Honest is in the bottom. However, there are shades of gray. There are these half tones in the middle. Sometimes you have shogeg, which is korov l'oines, somewhere between shogeg and oines, which the person would not have to go to Ir Miklat. The person who's honest, who's really had absolutely no way of ever thinking he'll do anything to anybody, he doesn't go to the Ir Miklat. The chiddush is, the Gemara is going to present now another case, another level, another strata, called shogeg korov l'mezid. What happens if the person is not completely rotzech b'mezid, He's not Luciano's friend from New York who just goes around as a hitman and kills people. And on the other hand, he's not exactly the person who goes to the forest and being lackadaisical, being uncareful. It's somewhere in between. Yeah, there's this level which today we're going to discuss called shogeg korov lemezid. It's above shogeg and below mezid. And surprise, surprise, such a person, I don't know what is his oynesh, but as far as I know, funnily enough, he has no oynesh that I know of. In other words, Bir Miklat is too good for him. Because he's above shogeg, he's worse than the classical case of the person who entered the forest. Yeah, he's more than that. Therefore, in this case, we say that that person who's above shogeg, he needs to, I don't know what he has to do. I have to admit, I have to refresh my makis. I didn't learn makis in a long time, the first part. But he does not go to your miklat because he's above meaning he's worse than your miklat. On the other hand, we don't kill him either because he's not mezid. Okay, so this man and other levels we're going to discuss now. A person entered the carpenter's chanut, which in this case I would not say it's a shop. A shop is a place where everybody comes in and out all the time. Yeah, welcome, we're open. But let's say it's the Nagal's workshop. It's the carpenter's workshop. To the private place, not everyone's supposed to come to his workshop, to his studio. It's a very snobbish place. Only the carpenter himself likes to work there quietly. Nobody's invited. Shaloi b'rshus, a person came in without permission, uninvited. V'nitzah b'kas v'tofcha al pono. Because a piece of wood flew off the thing, what's his name? The nagal. He was cutting the wood and a piece of wood flew over. It hit the face of the uninvited guest, umeis, and he died. Potu. Then he is potu. The person is potu for killing him because he's onus. Yeah, you can't call him poshea because he did not invite the guest. I did not expect that person to be in my house. I put a big sign on the door. You are not invited, mister. And he still came in. So I am something like onus. And therefore I'm below shogeg and I'm potu.
He's there without permission.
He's without permission, right?
He is there without permission.
Who?
The one that chops the wood.
No.
He's
a carpenter. He's the owner of the place. He's the owner of the place. It's his place. He bought it with good money.
The English, but you see it's very bad. It says, one enters the shop of a carpenter without permission.
Yeah, true. The one went in without permission, right? Right. Okay, no problem. Fine, no problem. Fine, it's good. If he entered with permission, okay, let's call them Reuven and Shimon to avoid confusion. Let's go back to the classical Reuven and Shimon. Reuven is a carpenter, Shimon is a guest or uninvited guest. If Shimon went into Reuven's carpenter shop, Bilshus, with permission, let's say he told him, okay, come to me tomorrow, you want to pick up your new stender, come to me tomorrow, Wednesday, at any point of day. So now Reuven the carpenter knows Shimon's supposed to come, and the same thing happened exactly, and he died, chayiv. Now, it's not so simple. I would say, what is the chayiv on? Chayiv in what? Chayiv in golus. It's killing b'shogeg because he expected the guest to come. He should have been careful. That's like the forest where you know you're not the only guy in the forest, right? So if came b'rshus chayiv, my chayiv, what is he chayiv on? Now you're in for a surprise. Guys. Omar b'Yosef b'Chanina, who's a Tana, chayiv b'arba dvorim, is chayiv in 4 things. Upotu migolus, and is potu from golus. Wow. We're saying that he's chayiv to pay him if he did not die. If he was damaged, he has to pay him 4 out of 5 in Ezekiel. We're going to explain that soon with Rashi. But he doesn't have to go to golus. Wow. Even though it's with permission, okay? And he cut the wood, and he knows somebody's supposed to come today, Wednesday, and still is potter megolus. He doesn't have to go to Ir Miklat. He's not considered to be a rotzech b'shogeg. I'm purposefully leaving behind the whole issue of Arba Dvorim, and it's a beautiful Rashi, which we have to see inside. I saw it yesterday a few times. Beautiful. We're going to see it later. Let's just now keep the flow of the Gemara, and then we'll see Rashi. Lefi she'ein doim eliyah. I'm continuing the Gemara. The line starts with the word lefi. Lefi she'ein doim eliyah. You know why Reuven the carpenter is potter, even though he invited the guy to come in. By the way, he didn't invite him right away. He didn't knock on the door. That second, he knows he's supposed to come at some point today, Wednesday. Doesn't know exactly when, and he came in. Sort of invited, sort of he expected guests, as they say, and then he hit the thing, and by mistake, the piece of wood flew onto Shimon's face and killed Shimon. He's not chayiv begolus. Why? It's with permission. Says the Brisa. If he she'ein dom eliyah, this is not like the case of the forest of the Torah. Why? Yeah, zelu shusa nichnas or zelu shusa nichnas. By the Yah, both of them, both the cutter and the victim, both of them came in with permission. It's their reshus also, not just permission. By the way, reshus means two things in Hebrew. Reshus is what is permission, and rashus means authority. Yeah, rashus is also domain. Reshus Arabim. That's reshus and that's rashus. Yeah, zel reshus nichnas. In other words, in this case, the yard is my backyard. I'm allowed to be in the yard just like you. It's a public place. Everybody can go to the yard, whether the black, white, or Chinese. Now, and in this case, the guy came into the carpenter's workshop, even though he is invited, sort of, he's allowed to be there. He's allowed to be there. It's very nice that he's allowed to be there. But no, very nice he's allowed to be there. But what? But Lamais, it's not his domain. They're not on equal footings, not equal ground. When the Torah tells you that the woodcutter is chai for killing the other person, is because we're both equally supposed to be there. You're not in your own house more than the other. It's like the house of both of us, legamre. But Shenkin, in this case, who is the owner of the workshop? Reuven. Shimon is allowed to be there, but Shimon is not there as equal as Reuven. In this case, the Torah is not mechayiv. The Torah only says you're considered to be shogeg if you are in everyone's grounds, equal grounds. Then you have to behave extra careful, knowing that the other person has the right to be there just like you. But if somebody is supposed to be in your place, but it's not really his place, he's only a guest in the place, to that level, if by mistake he was killed, not chayiv. Wow. You may ask why, right? But Lamaisi, we do see a difference. If they're not exactly the same level, that's not the case where the Torah says that's shogeg. And I think what does that mean? Not just I think. The Gemara thinks it's below shogeg. Frag the Gemara, Omar Rava doesn't like it. Or some people, Garson Rabbe. And he asked the question which I would ask. And he says, Ma pitom, kal v'chomer. Of course it's chayiv. The case of the carpenter is even worse than the case of the forest. Why? If in the forest, when Reuven came into the forest and Shimon came to the forest, Reuven the killer b'shogeg and Shimon the victim, they didn't know of each other. They did not warn each other. When Reuven enters the forest, yeah, even in today's forest, in today's technological age, I don't think when the guy enters a forest in America or in Eastern Europe, they're very, very big forests, right? I don't think there's an automatic loudspeaker system saying, Reuven, enter the forest, Reuven, enter the forest, beware. And you don't have some big, score screen saying, Reuven is here. No. Nobody knows you're in the forest. You came in your own accord. You didn't tell anybody. And so did Shimon, right? They don't know of each other's existence. Nobody came invited. It's a big forest with tons of trees and people and things, and you get lost. And yet, the Torah is mechayev. Continues the Gemara, Nasa kemishenichnas ladas chaveroi v'goyle. It's considered as if he entered to where with his friend's permission and his goyle. In other words, even though you, Reuven, the woodcutter, you don't know that Shimon came in. There's no loudspeakers. There's no bell ringing like in the store. You don't know Shimon is there. Yet you have to treat it as if you know Shimon is there. And therefore, if you killed him by mistake, you have to be aware enough. And Mister, you are punished. We're going to Golus. If that's the case with the forest, in the case of the workshop of the carpenter, all the more so. So this guy, meaning if Shimon came into the carpenter shop invited, Reuven the carpenter knew that Shimon supposed to do what? Supposed to come into his shop on Wednesday. All the more so Reuven should be extra careful. You're expecting guests, behave that way. right? Let's say if you know that a plumber is supposed to come between 2 and 4 in this country, which means it's going to come 4:30. That's besides the point. Yeah, will come to you between 2 and 4. You prepare the house. Somebody's going to be in the house. You maybe offer him a drink. Your wife will be more tsanua, whatever. You prepare for the guest, and you also don't cut woods like you're crazy if your guest's supposed to come, right? Kol sheken from the forest. It's even worse. The problem is Rav cannot argue on Rabbi Yosef bar Chanina. Rabbi Yosef bar Chanina is a Tana and Rav is an Amora. Therefore, Rav explains Rabbi Yosef bar Chanina's statement. He doesn't argue, but he explains because he doesn't like the previous svara. My potur mi golus. You know why he is exempt from golus? Deloi sagile begolus. Golus is not good enough for him, as I told you before. First wide line. You know what Rabbi Yosef bar Chanina said? He doesn't go to golus. Mishum dehavile shogeg kov lemezid. That's a good time, a place to stop. In other words, when you have shogeg kov lemezid, when you have shogeg, pure shogeg, 2 people in the forest. And I know that people come to the forest in general, but I didn't know particularly that Shimon is entering the forest right now. There's no loudspeaker system and no big screens to say, and no big cameras with screens, Shimon is here. And yet I'm supposed to, I'm expected to know that Shimon is there. Bevakasha, if I'm supposed to know that Shimon is there, good for me. Not good for me. I go to Golus. I should be aware. But in the case of the carpenter, knowing that Shimon's supposed to come at any point today on Wednesday, you should be extra careful. And therefore, he's not considered mezid. He was just uncareful. It was lackadaisical. He was cutting the wood without thinking. He didn't come to him with an axe and hit him. He's not an axe murderer. Yeah, he's not mezid, but he's not a complete shogeg either. He's above mezid, above shogeg, and below mezid. That's called shogeg kov lemezid. Shogeg close to mezid is worse than shogeg, so it doesn't go to ir miklat. Lo sagile begolus. Golus is not good enough for him. He needs a worse punishment. Again, I don't know the punishment is. I don't know if there is a punishment. But Lamaisa, he sort of falls between the cracks, and I will try and find, maybe Mechavus will probably know what you do with such a person. I don't. Okay, question time, and then we'll see Rashi, which is very, very important. Yes, very good. We are continuing the recording, thank you. And now we're looking at Rashi. We're going back to look at Rashi regarding the 5 Nezikin. Let's have a quick summary before we start Rashi. That would really help us. Tell me, please, how many things, when a person hits someone b'mezid, gives him a good punch, lo aleinu, the person lost his ear, chalila. Now the person is handicapped for life. How many payments does the person have to pay him, the damager, the violent guy? 5. Nezek and the other 4, including medical and everything, and boishes, and also the shame. What happens if you hit him by mistake? He went, he stretched, boom, and he's a bodybuilder, stretching, and it hit someone's nose and defaced him for life, Khalila. How many things does he have to pay him? What? Yefeh, Yosef, you get a note to your house. Very nice. 1. Why 1? Because although we say Odamod Loilom, and we say person is Chav and Shogeg, and even honest, Nezikin, not the killing. Although we say that, we said in Daf Chaf Vav on the base on the top, if you remember, we said there the Torah only mechadish that Odamod Loilom regarding Nezik, not regarding the other 4. Okay? Now, when we remember that, let's see Rashi. Chai Balbot Vo, says Rashi. Im lo meis, if the person entering the shop, now he entered the shop and he didn't die. We're talking the Gemara if he died. Let's say Baruch Hashem, he didn't die. He was injured. There are 2. There's with permission, without permission makes a difference. Let's see, not that. Ela huzak. Let's say he was damaged. Noisen loy nezek tzav ripu v'sheves davilei poshea. If it's with permission, if he entered with permission, he's considered to be a poshea. What do you mean is a poshea? You should have known better. You invited the guy to your house, excuse me? So you have to be aware of what you're doing. And you're a poshea. You're not odamuad loilam. You're mamish a poshea. You really are muad. You're really poshea. You pay 4 nezek, the pain, the medical fees and loss of work. What about the shame, the embarrassment? You don't have to pay the embarrassment. Why? Boishus is only if you are mechaven. Boishus is only if you davka mean to hurt his feelings. Remember, we also learned that. It's a good chazaro. Let's say I embarrass a person, but complete mistake, real mistake. It's not so embarrassing. Let's say somebody, I don't know, tears your suit, you look like an idiot in the middle of a wedding. If he does it on purpose, he's trying to make fun of you. That's very hurtful. If it happened by complete mistake, like, I don't know, use the knife uncarefully, and he says, oh, sorry, I'll get you a new suit, let's go to the bathroom and I'll check. That's not so bad, right? It's not really as embarrassing. I'm saying balabatish, but there are psukim for that, but that's the idea. So boishes is only if you mean to be mevayish, to make him embarrassed. But the other four things, you're posher. You should have known that the guy may come to you, and you're not aware of that, you're posher, you're negligent, you're worse than knowing this for sure. Vereisha, what about the other case, the shaloi b'rshus? What happens if he entered with no permission? No permission. And the guy cut the wood and hurt him. Didn't kill him, he hurt him, hurt his nose, cut his nose now, a free nose job, yeah, but not a good one. So the Reisha, Shiloi Bilshus, Potu Marbot Volim, you potu from all four things, only Nezik you chayev. Why? The Leika Pshia, there's no Pshia. Why is there no Pshia? Because I'm not a Poshea. What am I? I'm Onus. Onus, yeah. We say odamod lo'olam. Aval hanezek chayev kedekam lepetza tachas petza lechayev le'ones kerotzoin. We say petza tachas petza odamod lo'olam. When do we say odamod lo'olam? When do we say odamod lo'olam? Regarding nezek, not regarding the other four. Not regarding the other four. Okay? Beseder. Shall I summarize? Again. If a person is boshea, shogeg, mezid, whatever, he always has to pay nezek. Good? Nachon. Other three nezikin, except for boishes, you only have to pay when? You have to pay even when you're negligent, or even you don't have to pay them. You only have to pay them when you're mezid. When you're honest, you don't have to pay them. You don't have to pay the other three. And boishes, you only have to pay when you're mamish mezid. Okay. Mesiv Rove, we're back to the second wide line. Mesiv Rove. Rove asks a question. Now the question of Rove. What did Rove just establish? Let's get our bearings to now. What do we say? We just came up with a new concept of shogeg korov lemezid. Okay? Shogeg korov lemezid. True? It's above shogeg and below mezid. So he does not deserve to go to the miklat. It's too good for him. For example, a person who cut the wood and what happened to him? You expected the guest to be coming. You expect the guest to come. You don't know that he's here, but you know he's supposed to be coming at some point, and you're not careful. You are worse. You're more negligent than the regular shogeg, and your shogeg that's close to mezid, you don't go to the miklat. To miklat is too good of a punishment for you. That's the establishment. This is the statement established by Rove, or Rabbah, some people say. Mesiv Rove.
Unintentional bordering on the intentional.
Unintentional bordering on the intentional. Very good. Shogeg korov lemezid. Very good. Mesiv Rove. Now Rove asks a question on his own words or in the words of Rabbah. What's the story over here? A person has to get malchus. He was over in Isser Doraisa, supposed to get malchus, and Beis Din said the lashes. Now we know many people don't get all 39. They get a doctor to assess the person and see how strong he is or she is to accept the malchus without dying. You're not supposed to kill him. Unless it's supposed to be always by sets of 3. Yeah, because that's we said it's like kiflaim 1 and 2. That's sets of 3. Let's say Beis Din decided that person is so weak he can only get 9 lashes, not more than that, not 10. The 10th one would kill him. He's supposed to get 9 lashes and then go home, do tshuva, sit, and come back to life. Very nice. So now, not come back to life. I mean, recuperate. He didn't die. Supposed to get 9 makas and go home. Everything kapara, good. Yom Kippur. Now is the time for kapara. The Beis Din's shaliach, the one who actually lashes the person, the one who lashes him, 1 in the front and 2 in the back, doing Beis Din's job, the lasher, yeah, by mistake, He added 1 lash. Instead of 9, he gave him a 10th one. And you know what happened? Surprise, surprise, Umeis. The one getting the malchus died out of that. That person, the shliach bezdin, now has to go to an ear miklat because he is a rotzech b'shgogo. He is shogeg because he is rotzech b'shogeg. He has to go to ear miklat. Frag the Gemara, why? According to what we just established, I would say that's worse than shogeg. The halacha over here, the shogeg kov lemezid. This is shogeg kov lemezid. That's shogeg that's close to mezid. The boy asuki daite, the mighty inshi bechada retzua. He should have asuki daite. He should have entered his mind. He should have thought that people die with 1 retzua, with 1 lash. Okay, with 1 lash, they can die with that extra lash. That's why Dr. Cohen, somebody estimated him to getting 9 and not 10, because 10 is dangerous for him. You should have been aware of that. That's some kind of sad mistake. That's not just a guy cutting wood innocently in the forest, with whatever, Little Red Riding Hood in the background, and he is cutting his wood. You should know that this is a 10th one that can kill him, and you're not aware of that. That's Karv Lamezid. Victania is a goyler, and yet we do say that he's goyler. Why is that? Yeah, it's wrong. We see that we don't believe in the concept of shogeg kov lemezid. Quick. Yeah. Omar Rav Shimon Nardo, very good. Says Rav Shimon Nardo, very good. You're in the right direction. Rav Shimon Nardo answers the type b'minyono. He was wrong in the numbers. It's not like he gave him a 10th one, spacing out. He counted, but he counted wrong. He got the number wrong, and that's why, he wasn't giving the extra without thinking. He had the wrong cheshbon, which is more justifiable. He really thought he's giving the 9th one. That's why it's a shogeg. Frag the Gemara now. The Gemara is going to quickly actually reject that. The Gemara says, very interesting line that appears 3 places in Shas. Rava now took Rav Shimon Ardo and hit him with a sandal. There are a few explanations what that means. Either he gave him like a small, what Rav Shimi said is like a very big mistake. In the eyes of Rava, it's a big lack of yediyah. So 2 Talmid Chachamim sitting together, one of them says something so wrong. One explanation, Rashi, in one place is that he hit him under the ground, like, let's say your friend, you sit at a table, supper table, and your wife says something very untactful. You give her a bit of a nudge under the table to tell her, darling, this you shouldn't be saying now, right? You basically give a small, not hit, like under the table to, don't say that. So that's what Rava did now. Or some say that he hit him with a stick on his sandal, in a joking way, like, come on, like a funny, poking like that. And some say that he hit him with a sandal. I don't think it was a strong one, but he gave him a bit of a hit. He gave him musar. He's his Rav. He gave him musar. Amalei, and what's a big musar? What's a big mistake? What's a big faux pas that he did? Amalei, atu hu mani? Is he the one who counts? Is a shliach bezdin the one counting that you're telling me that he got the number wrong? Nobody's asking him. He's not the one counting. The Tanya, it says in the Brisa regarding Malchus, Godol shebadayonim koire. The greatest dayan of them, of the 21, he is the one that koire. He is the one who says the posuk which we read yesterday in the parsha. The posuk of Vifla Hashem es makoischo. It's a posuk that they read again and again throughout the Malchus. V'sheni moine, and the second dayan is one who actually counts. V'shlishi omer hakeu, and the third dayan is one who says hit him. One hit him. The second one says 2 hit him. In any event, so you see that it's not up to the person who's hitting. He's not the one counting. He's following orders. In this case, he really follows orders. Elam of Shimon Ardo. Therefore, if Shimon Ardo comes and explains what is the same. If Shimon Ardo explains the to dayana gufe. And that's a good answer. The dayan is the one making the mistake. The dayan is the one making the mistake. And the one lashing is the one that is following orders. And that is a beautiful case of shogeg. Why? On one end, the dayan is a groma. The dayan didn't touch him. The dayan who made the wrong number 10, somehow got the numbers wrong and he counted 7 twice or something like that. I don't know what. Or maybe the bigger numbers, 21. He somehow counted twice. The dayan, it's really his fault, but he can't be mechayvim. He didn't do anything physical. We know how halacha works. The person who followed the dayan's orders is not onus, but not mezid. He's not honest because maybe he should have thought, hey, Dayan, are you sure? On the other hand, he's not really saying Dayan, are you sure? Because if he believes the Dayan is right. It's a bit like you go to a shir of a Rav, not a very great Rav, like a young Rav, and he says something in halacha which you're not sure is right or wrong. You're not going to correct him right away, right? You're going to go home and check a sefer. Yeah, or Baal Koira. Sometimes Baal Koira reads and you're not sure if it's a mistake or not a mistake. You're not going to correct him, but you're not sure if it's right either. So it's that middle of the road level of mistake of, the Dayan said something, I'm not sure yes or no, I'll follow the Dayan. So you're not Potter, you're Chayv Galus, you should have known better, but you can't say it's close to mezid either, because he's really following orders. It's a very, very choshev psychology over here, where we see on one hand, it's not onus because he is following someone's orders, but he's not but he's not completely off the line because he should have known better. And therefore we say it's shogeg. It's just in the middle of the road. Shogeg, he has to go to your miklat. Who? The one who lashes. The Dayan told him, you should have asked Dayan, are you sure you're right? This is life and death. You should have questioned the Dayan. In this case, you shouldn't always follow orders. Yes. Mesivi. Another question on the same idea exactly. A person who threw a stone to Reshus Harabim, he threw a stone to Reshus Harabim and he killed someone, so he goes to Golus because he killed someone by mistake after he threw a big rock. After he threw a big rock to Reshus Harabim, he goes to Golus. Again, the same question. This is shogeg close to mezid. You're throwing rocks to Reshus Harabim. Oh, you didn't know that people are there. He should have thought that Reshus Harabim shchichi inshi. Don't you know that people walk down the street? Or would you think you're the only person in the world? You think are you in Antarctica now? You're in the middle of a street, or you're in your house right near a busy street. You didn't think it's going to kill anybody? You're nuts. Of course, this is worse than shogeg. This is shogeg korv mezid, and therefore this should be. And yet, and yet we do say is goyle. Seems to be against what Rav was saying before. Seems again that we don't believe in that middle level of shogeg korv mezid, and we do lump everyone together, sending them to your miklat. The guy threw a stone into the street, and yet it's just golus. I would say it's worse. Amar Shmuel bar Yitzchak. Says Rav Shmuel bar Yitzchak, you're not going to understand the answer at the beginning, don't worry, but you'll soon, very soon, you will. This person is what? He's demolishing his wall. He's not throwing rocks in Reshus Harabim because he's a maniac, he's a meshugana. He has some kind of legal reason to demolish his wall. He's doing demolishing work, and therefore he's demolishing the wall. And the wall and the stones fell into the street, the rolling stones, and now they killed someone. And that's more justifiable. Frag the Gemara, why? Yomi. It's true that the guy's not some crazy tipish, he's doing something more civil. So what? At the end of the day, Yomi. When you do proper construction work, like everybody in Israel, you have to be prepared in advance and put a big sign, everyone be careful, coordinate it with your yard, that, the street should be stopped, I don't know, there should be no human traffic, make sure that it's done right. Why are you not looking to see that you're demolishing wall? It may fall on someone's head. Still same question. Answers Gemara b'sasar b'layla. He did it at night when he assumes people don't walk around. At night, especially back then, he thinks the street is empty. That's what he did then. The Gemara is still not being so forgiving. The Gemara still challenges, B'layla, nami b'ayla yuni. Even at night, you should have looked. Because Lamaisa, at night, some people still walk down the street. You have less people, but some people are still there. Even in the olden days, it wasn't a curfew. It wasn't like the British ruled Israel. At some point, many times at night, there was a curfew, and everyone has to be home. Yeah, like in the Shtachim nowadays. It doesn't work like that. People still walk around. You should have seen, this is human life. You should have watched your stone, your step. Ibaila Yuni. Answers the Gemara, and soon we're going to see how day and night combine very nicely. This person is demolishing his wall during the day into an area behind the house called ashpa. I'm sure many of us know that ashpa means garbage in Hebrew. Ashpa in the olden days was similar, not exactly the same, was similar to like a, excuse my language, garbagey area behind the houses. Behind people's houses, they would have a place called ashpa. The more you learn, the more you see that it's like a place where they would keep old stuff. It wasn't that much garbage that the area would take away, yeah? It would be like where all your odds and ends are and sometimes people would stay there to do their toilet. It's the backyard where it's not the nice part of town or the neighborhood. It's a backyard with all the garbage things. So he was demolishing his wall into the ashpa, assuming nobody's there. He assumed nobody goes to the ashpa. Ashpa is this fichi kind of area. People don't walk around there. That's why I broke my wall into there. The Gemara still insists. The Gemara keeps insisting. This is life and death. Hi ashpa echidami. What's the story of this ashpa? Don't just tell me ashpa. Tell me what kind of ashpa it was. If many people go there, they want to collect the garbage for themselves, or people sometimes do walk in the ashpa, or maybe, they walk there to throw their own ashpa, or maybe, I don't know what, some people go there for toilet, by the way, also. So if a lot of people go to the ashpa, mezidu. That's amazing. And if you don't have people walking there, it's really like some kind of very desolate place, deserted place, onusu, then he's onus. Again, keep your eyes on the ball. We're looking for a case in which what? A person throwing a stone or demolishing a wall to Rishus Rabim is shogeg. Just in the middle of the road, not near mezid and not near onus, and he's going to Ir Miklat if somebody died. And we still didn't find. Okay, so it's ashfa, so it's not the street, but what kind of ashfa? If it's an ashfa, a lot of people walk around because a lot of beggars go there to find homeless people. They go to find Metzias over there, then you're mezid. If nobody goes there, it's a disgusting ashpa, nobody looks at, then it's onus. Where do we find the shogeg in the middle of the road, that nikud in the middle of the scale? Amar Papa, and this is the final answer, the final truth is going to shine on us. Amar Papa, it's an ashpa where people go to toilets to do their toilet needs at night. It's a night toilet. It's too exposed for the day. During the day, people don't go there to be excused, but by night they do. Okay, it's not meant to be used as toilet during the day. Most people who are normal don't go there during the day. Sometimes you have the odd person, which is quite rare or very rare. The person sometimes goes there if he's real desperate to toilet, like in the park or something. He goes and he does what he does there at daytime too. Sometimes people go there during the day, but it's a rare thing. Mezid loy havi. You can't call the guy who demolished his wall during the day on that place where people very rarely use his toilet. You can't call him mezid. The guy did a 12 o'clock lunch. It's very rare somebody goes there to toilet 12 o'clock lunchtime, and therefore you can't call him mezid. He's not so uncareful yet to be called mezid. Onus nami lohavi, but you can't call him onus either. He's not like, wow, somebody went to toilet. It does happen every once in a while. It's not completely out of your realm, out of your, mindset or your wavelength. Some people do mikri as mikre. Some people happen to come to the place and they sit there to do their, excuse me, and therefore you are just in the middle. You are shogeg, good classical, old flavor, old country shogeg, and therefore you go to a city called Golan or Betzel or Ramot or any of the 48 Orei Miklat, because you're shogeg. And Chinami, let's summarize. If you throw a stone to the street, in other words, let's defend Rava. Rava says, I am right. Yes, if a person throws a stone into the street without trying to hurt anybody, he's just being uncareful. He took the stone, boom, or demolished the wall, being uncareful. He doesn't go to Imiklat because his shogeg called the mezid. He's closer to mezid. He's not mezid. He didn't aim at Pachachovsky to try and kill him. He's just being very uncareful. That's close to mezid. He doesn't go to Imiklat, as we said, as we established. But a guy who's in a very specific place where it's rare where people sit there to toilet but sometimes they do, rarely so, the off chance, but the off chance does exist, mister, this is human life. This is not playing cards, and therefore you have to know, and you're considered as shogeg. You're not close to mezid, but you're not honest either. You're right in the middle of all 5 levels, and you are shogeg, and you go to the refugee city. Questions and comments? You can continue if you want. Or we shall welcome questions. No, continue, good. So far, what did we say? Yes, sir, I'm listening to you. Let's go. Rav Papa Mishmei the Rava Matni La Reisha. Rav Papa on behalf of Rava is learning that whole concept of shogeg karv mezid on the Reisha. What does the Reisha mean? Let's see now. The same two cases as before. Remember, one without permission, one with permission is going to be the same, but with a twist. Let's read again. We are now a few lines from the bottom of the page. Line starts with the word nichnas. A person entered the carpenter's shop without permission whatsoever. Yeah, the guy did, the carpenter hit him, not hit him. The carpenter did his thing, and bam! The piece of wood flew over and flew into his face and killed him. Potu is potu. What is he potu on? Amar Beisa Bachanina chayv al bo dvorim. He is chayv on all four things because he's considered to be what? He is a negligent person. Because why? It's true that it's without permission, but even without permission, we say that it's considered enough of a peshia. Is chayv al bo dvorim. That's a chiddush. He views that as bad enough. Upotu migolus is the potu from golus. Without permission, that's easy to understand, right? Of course. No permission is potur megolus. Why? I did not allow you to be here. Therefore, I'm considered to be an onus. I'm onus. Why? Because I didn't expect you to come. I didn't expect you to come. So vis-a-vis, as opposed to leave Arba Dvarim alone, that's a different sugya. Vis-a-vis the union of killing, I'm considered to be an onus. In this opinion, I'm below shogeg because you're not expected to be here. You're not invited here b'chlal. I potur migolus not because it's shogeg karv mezid. It's verkehrt because it's below shogeg. You're not supposed to be in b'chlal. Man de matni la seifa, the one who learns the inyan of shogeg karv mezid on seifa, kol sheken reisha. The one who says it is potur migolus because it's not yar, all the more so on the reisha. Meaning, if you say in the seifa that in the seifa is considered to be close to mezid, even though it's with permission, or the more so when he's with permission, of course it's close to mezid, right? Remember the first opinion? They said even with permission, you are potur megolus because you're too bad. Kolshken and Reisha, with permission, of course you're close to mezid. Of course, in both cases, you go to your miklat. But the one who says only in the Reisha, you are considered to be potu. Aval seifa, in the case of seifa, can the b'rshus, chayv golus. And that's what we say. That's a simple svar we would have said all the time. The seifa, according to this opinion, the case of with permission, it's regular golus. Let's summarize again. According to this opinion, the Reisha, when he's uninvited, we say, uninvited, I'm onus. I wouldn't have known B'chlal, he's not supposed to be here. I didn't know he's coming. I don't care, my place, his place. I have no idea he's supposed to come. I put a big sign, no entry, and a barking dog. He came, nothing to do with me. That's onus. But with permission, it's chayv golus. If he allowed him to come in, we don't say it's karv mezid. According to this opinion, that's a difference between the first one and this one. We don't say that he's shogeg karv mezid. We say shogeg. In this opinion, a person who's allowed to come to his friend's house, yes, he can come in. Yes, come in at Wednesday between 2 and 4. He came in and you kept doing your work uncarefully. You are a rotzeach b'shogeg chayv golus, and we don't view you as worse than shogeg. You are shogeg. Okay, we can hear a question now.
If the person walks in with permission and he injures him, is entitled to 4 of the yeah. If he enters without permission,
even without, that's a chiddush.
If he enters without permission, is he still entitled to the 4?
According to this opinion, yes, it's a very big chiddush.
Yeah, so either one, we go without permission, he's entitled to the 4.
Very good. Thank you, Ellen. Am I recorded? I hope so. Yeah. Rashi says that he saw him coming in. I portrayed up until now a case, and I don't think I was wrong. He's supposed to wait for him at a certain time of day. He should have known. But in this case, when he sees him coming, says Rashi, Chazie de Ayel. He saw him coming in, and he still kept working. Oh, that's worse. And therefore, he should have looked, and he didn't look. Therefore, it's considered to be a pashea. Is chayv on all 4 things. In this case, I actually have to stop now. I have to stop the shir a bit right on time for a certain reason. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Hatzlach rabba. Bye bye. Thank you.